The sky above planet Drax 7 was dark and heavy with smoke. The remains of a great battle were scattered across the valley. Burned ships, broken weapons, and twisted metal covered the land like a graveyard. No one came here, not unless they were desperate or greedy. Reed was both, a human scavenger, wearing a thick coat and a rusted oxygen mask. He moved slowly through the wreckage, his boots crunching metal and ash. He had been doing this job for years, searching for anything valuable in dead places. His scanner beeped. Something ahead was giving off strange energy. He stepped over a broken alien cannon and found a hole in the ground. It looked like a hatch, half buried in dust and blood. Reed opened it, his torchlight cutting into the darkness below. A deep stairway led into the belly of a crashed alien cruiser. The air was thick, the smell of burned wires and death filled his nose, but he kept going, one step at a time. Inside, it was quiet, too quiet. No systems were running, no lights, no signs of life, except one, a faint humming like a heartbeat. He followed it down a corridor lined with strange symbols. His fingers brushed the wall, feeling the heat beneath the surface. This ship wasn't dead, not completely. At the end of the hallway, he found a large round door. It was sealed, but something was glowing behind it. Reed placed his hand on the panel, and with a click, it slid open. What he saw inside made him stop. It was a small chamber, soft blue light glowing from the floor. In the center was a pod, shaped like a cocoon, and inside that pod, curled up, was a girl, not human, not fully. She had pale skin with soft purple tones, hair like silver threads, and small horns on her forehead. Her eyes were closed, her breathing slow, like she was sleeping. Reed took a step closer. The pod reacted, sensing movement. Her eyes snapped open bright, glowing blue, filled with fear. She pressed her hand to the glass, shaking. Reed raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't speak, but her eyes locked onto his, searching for danger. The scanner on Reed's arm beeped again, flashing red. Warning, bioweapon signature detected. His heart raced. This wasn't just a girl. She was the reason this ship was attacked. It's a living weapon, created by aliens, designed to destroy. He should have left. He should have called someone, sold her location, claimed the reward, but he didn't move. He remembered another child. Long ago, his own daughter, lost in a war he never understood. This girl, this weapon, looked just as scared, just as lost. Suddenly, the ship groaned. Metal shifting above, the crash site was unstable. The wreck was about to collapse. Reed made a decision. He smashed the control panel with his crowbar. The pod hissed and opened slowly, releasing steam and light. The girl curled up, afraid, her small body shaking. He reached out his hand. She looked at it, then at him, then back at her. Pod. Then slowly, she took it. Reed pulled her out and wrapped her in his coat. "Come on," he said. "We have to get out of here." They ran, the floor trembling under their feet. Metal beams crashed behind them. Fire shot from the walls. Reed didn't stop, not even when smoke burned his lungs. He held her close and kept moving. Outside, the cold wind hit them like a wall. Reed fell to his knees, coughing. The girl looked at him, still silent, but now curious. He looked back at her. She was just a child. No matter what they had made her for. He stood up, dusted off, and looked around. No one had seen them. No one knew what he had found. He had a choice: sell her, turn her in, and live like a king, or protect her and live as a target. Everyone expected him to use the alien girl, but he gave her his coat, his hand, and a name. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked down, confused. "Doesn't matter," he said. "I'll call you Ara." She blinked, then gave the smallest nod. It was the first time someone had spoken to her like a person, not a weapon. The first time someone had offered her a name, a home, a future. Reed looked at the stars above, then back at Era. "Let's get off this rock," he said, and they disappeared into the smoke together. The ship flew through the blackness of space, silent, hidden, and alone. Reed sat in the pilot's chair, staring out the window. Behind him, wrapped in a gray blanket, Ara sat quietly, watching him. She hadn't spoken a word, not since they left the wreck. Reed didn't push her. He knew what fear looked like. And she wore it like skin. The small cargo ship, called the Dust Fox, wasn't fancy. Old controls, flickering lights, weak shields, but it was safe, and for now, safety was rare. Reed had hidden the ship deep in an asteroid belt. No signals, no scans, no light, just darkness, cold and quiet. The perfect place to think. And to hide, he turned around and placed a cup of warm broth in front of Era. She looked at it, then at him, her eyes still glowing faint blue, but softer. Now she slowly reached out, fingers trembling, and took a sip. Reed smiled, just a little. "You're not a weapon," he said. "You're a kid." Era looked down, unsure. Somewhere in her mind, old voices whispered. Training, commands, tests, pain. But Reed's voice was different. It didn't hurt. Suddenly, a beep echoed from the console. Reed's smile vanished. He turned to the screen, tapped a few keys. A message flashed across. "Bounty alert, live subject BIO weapon, girl 1,000,000 CRDITS." He clenched his jaw. They already knew. Somehow, someone had scanned them. News of Ara was spreading like fire through dry wood. Reed looked at her. She was watching him again. Eyes wide, she had seen the screen, the bounty, the fear. He walked over slowly and knelt beside her. "Listen to me," he said. "You are not for sale. You hear me?" Ara blinked, unsure what to say. No one had ever told her that before. They didn't have much time. Reed began packing supplies, food, fuel cells, spare wires. He opened a hidden panel under the floor and grabbed his plasma pistol. His fingers moved fast, but his mind raced faster. Who had leaked the signal? Was it the crash site? A hidden drone, an old friend watching. Didn't matter now. They had to move, and fast. Ara stood beside him, her small frame shaking slightly. She held something in her hands, an old drawing Reed had stuck to the wall. It was a sketch of a home, with trees and stars above. She stared at it, confused, but curious. "That's Earth," Reed said quietly. "Where I grew up." Era looked at him, then back at the paper. "Is it real?" she whispered, her voice soft, dry, almost broken. Reed froze, surprised by the sound of it. He smiled gently. "Yeah," he said, "it's real." More signals flashed on the console, 3 ships approaching, unknown ID. But Reed knew the type bounty hunters. He rushed to the controls and powered the ship. Engines roared. Lights flickered back to life. He set course away from the asteroid field. But the hunters were fast. Outside space lit up with red flashes. Laser fire passed near the ship's hull. Reed gritted his teeth, steering through narrow rocks and spinning debris. Era held onto the chair, eyes glowing again. She could feel fear around her, but something inside was rising. A light exploded near the engine. Reed swore, trying to stabilize the ship. "Ara, hang on," he shouted. She didn't move, but her eyes turned brighter, almost white. One of the hunter's ships moved too close. Ara raised her hand slowly toward the window. Reed turned. "No," he said, "don't." But it was too late. A burst of silent light pulsed from Ara's body. Outside, the hunter ship sparked and spun out of control. No explosion, just systems dead, like something had shut it off completely. Reed stared in shock. Era lowered her hand, her breathing Fast tears ran down her face. "I didn't mean to," she said. I didn't want them to take you." Reed knelt beside her, holding her shaking hands. "It's okay," he said. "You saved us." She looked at him, her face full of confusion and guilt. "But I used it," she whispered. "The thing they made me for." He touched her shoulder gently. "You're more than what they made you for," he said. "You're not their weapon anymore." The ship went silent again, only stars blinking outside. Reed set a new course, no destination, just away, somewhere they could breathe. Hide, rest. Ara sat back, holding the drawing again. The stars in it looked peaceful, calm, and for the first time, she believed. Maybe she could belong somewhere. Reed watched her from the corner of his eye. He knew the galaxy wouldn't stop hunting, but something inside him had changed too. He wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was giving her a future, and no price in the universe could buy that. The dust fox drifted through deep space. Far from any map, no signals, no lights, just the hum of old engines and the soft flicker of broken lights. Reed had found a hidden sector between asteroid rings, where no one came. Here, they could breathe. Even if just for a little while. Inside the ship, things were different now. Not louder, not busier, but warmer. Ara walked barefoot through the halls, wrapped in one of Reed's old jackets. It was too big for her. Sleeves passed her hands, but she never took it off. Reed fixed wires and cleaned systems. He had lived alone for so long, and now, suddenly, there was a second toothbrush on the sink, a second plate on the table, and quiet footsteps behind him. Always following, Ara didn't talk much, but she stayed close. Every morning, Reed made something warm for breakfast: toast, dried fruit, broth, whatever the storage still had. Ara would sit at the table silently, waiting for him to sit first. Then she would eat slowly, carefully, as if it might disappear one day. Reed placed a thin book in front of her. It was old, pages yellowed, full of simple words and pictures. "Try this," he said. "I'll help." Ara looked at the cover, her fingers running across the faded title. She turned the first page, reading each word in her head. Cat, tree, sun, home. The words were strange, but they felt soft. Reed sat beside her, pointing gently. "Sci-Fi," he said. "Cat." Ara repeated the sound. Unsure at first, then smiled. When she got it right, that was the first time she laughed. It wasn't loud, just a small giggle, but Reed froze, surprised. He hadn't heard laughter on this ship in years. And now it echoed like music. Every night, Ara asked for a story. She wouldn't say it out loud, but she would sit by the storage locker where the books were kept, waiting, watching. Reed would grab one, sit on the floor, and read in a calm voice. She listened carefully, her glowing eyes wide. The stories weren't about war or weapons. They were about friendship, forests, lost dogs, brave girls, things she had never seen, but things she began to imagine. One evening, Ara brought Reed a piece of scrap metal on it. She had carved lines and stars with a wire tip. In the center, a small stick figure Reed beside a smaller one Ara. Underneath, she had written, "Fox Home." Reed looked at it for a long time, then hung it on the wall of the cockpit. Next to the drawing of Earth. "You've got talent," he said. Ara just smiled and sat beside him. But outside their quiet bubble, danger still grew. Unknown to them, someone had found traces of the dust fox's old signal trail. A drone, silent and black, drifted through space, following broken digital crumbs. Watching, recording, reporting. One day, while checking outside for damage, Reed found it, small, shaped like a marble, floating near the hull. He smashed it with a wrench, but it was too late. The signal had already been sent. Back inside, he didn't tell Ara. Not yet. She was painting with melted wire tips on scrap panels, drawing trees and animals from the storybooks. Reed watched. Her quietly, her hands shook sometimes, like she was fighting old memories. But her drawings were full of peace and hope. That night, she asked a question, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think I was?" Reed blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" He asked. She looked at her hands. "Was I ever a baby? Did someone love me?" Reed swallowed hard. He didn't know the truth. She might have been grown in a lab, built for war, raised in silence, but he couldn't tell her that. Not yet. He knelt down, looked into her eyes. "I don't know how you came into this world," he said, "but I know this right now. Someone does love you." Ara stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. For the first time, the glow in her eyes wasn't from her powers, it was from trust, a quiet kind. The kind you earn, not take. Reed checked the radar again that night. Still quiet, still safe for now. But he knew that signal drone had started something. And someone would be coming soon. He looked at the small bed in the storage room, where Ara now slept, curled up, peaceful, dreaming. He pulled the jacket over her shoulders and sighed. He had made a choice when he pulled her from that pod. Now, he had something to protect, not because she was powerful, but because she was becoming something more. His family, and no bounty, no war. No past could take that away. Not without a fight. The dust fox was no longer safe. Reed could feel it in his bones. The quiet around them wasn't peaceful anymore. It was waiting. 2 days had passed since he found the spy drone outside the ship. He hadn't told Ara. He didn't want to take away her smile. Not yet, but that smile was fading on its own. Ara had been drawing less, sleeping less, and her eyes, always glowing a little, were now brighter at night. Like they sensed something coming, Reed checked the ship's sensors again. No ships nearby, no signals, no noise. But he didn't trust silence anymore. Too many hunters knew how to stalk without sound. In the storage room, Ara sat on the floor, holding a book, but she wasn't reading. She stared at the pages, not blinking. Reed stepped in quietly. "You okay?" he asked. She looked up, her face pale. "There's something near," she said softly. "I can feel it." Reed didn't ask how. She had a gift store, maybe a curse that let her feel energy. Emotions, danger. He nodded, and gently closed the book. "We're moving," he said, "right now." He powered up the dust fox and turned the ship toward a gas cloud field. It was dangerous to fly through, full of magnetic storms and debris. But it was perfect for hiding. If they were being tracked, it would break the trail. Ara stood near the window, watching stars disappear behind thick clouds. Her hands were shaking again. Reed placed a calming hand on her shoulder. "We'll be okay," he said. "We always find a way." Suddenly, the ship jolted. Warning lights flashed red. 3 enemy ships appeared behind them, no signal. No hail, just weapons armed. They had found them. Reed grabbed the controls. Turning the dust fox into a hard spin, blasters flew past the hull, shaking the ship. Ara fell to her knees, holding her head. The fear in the air was heavy, outside. The cloud storms began to swirl. Electric arcs danced between the rocks. Reed flew the ship low, dodging debris, hiding behind magnetic shadows. But the hunters stayed close. One ship fired a pulse blast, hitting their rear engine, smoke-filled. The cockpit, Reed yelled, pulling hard on the lever. The ship dived, then steadied. Barely, Ara stood up. Her face changed. She walked to the center of the ship, her eyes now glowing pure white. Energy crackled around her fingers. "Don't," Reed said, coughing. "Not unless you have to." "I have to," she replied, her voice echoing strangely. She placed her hands against the ship wall. The light from her body spread like veins through the metal. Outside, the air around the dust fox shimmered. One of the hunter ships suddenly lost power and spun into the gas clouds, disappearing. Another tried to fire, but its weapon systems exploded inside. Reed stared in shock. He had never seen Ara use her gift like this, so focused, so powerful. But she collapsed the moment it was over, her body weak, eyes dim, breath heavy. The last hunter ship pulled back, retreating into the mist. Reed flew the dust fox deeper into the storm until they were hidden again. Then he landed on a nearby asteroid, base abandoned and dark, a place where no one would look twice. He carried Era to the bed, placed a wet cloth on her forehead. She opened her eyes slowly. "I didn't want to hurt them," she said, barely whispering. "I just wanted them to stop. You did what you had to." Reed replied, "And you saved us." "But I felt it," she said. "The part of me that wants to destroy," her voice cracked. "It's still there." Reed sat beside her. "I know," he said, "but you're not just that part. You're more Ara. You're stronger because you fight it." She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'm scared of myself." Reed looked at the small drawing on the wall, the one she made of them under the stars. He took it down and placed it in her hands. "Then hold on to this," he said, "because this is you too." She held the drawing tight and nodded. Just once, outside, space remained silent, but it wouldn't last. Reed knew the hunters would come again, stronger, smarter. He would need help. Old contacts, forgotten debts, risky deals. He had left that world behind, but for Ara, he'd return. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was family. And families don't run forever. Sometimes, they fight back. The dust fox touched down on an old mining moon called Fahrenheit. It was dusty, half-abandoned, and smelled like rust and forgotten dreams. Reed had only come here for one reason: to find someone he used to trust. The landing was rough, but they made it. Era looked out the window at the broken buildings. "Is this home?" she asked softly. "No." Reed said, "This is danger that looks like safety." Fahrenheit was a gray place, but it had something rare: no patrols, no rules, no cameras, a place where people disappeared or reappeared, depending on who paid the most. Reed took Era by the hand as they stepped off the ship. She stayed close, her hood pulled low, her glow dimmed. Every step felt heavy. Like the shadows were watching, they entered a scrapyard full of dead ships and parts, stacked like graves. In the middle stood a man with silver hair and oil-stained gloves. He looked up and grinned. "Well, well, Redthorn," he said. "Thought you were dead?" Reed gave a tired smile. Still breathing, he glanced back at Ara, who hid behind him. "She's with me," he added. Firm and sharp, the man Corvain tilted his head. He studied Era for a moment, then chuckled. "So the stories are true," he muttered. "You really found her." "She's not a weapon," Reed said. "She's a child." Corvain raised his hands. "Relax, brother. I'm not here to hurt her. I owe you, remember?" They followed Corvain into a rusted bunker beneath the yard. It was warm, lit by soft lamps and old screens. Era looked around, surprised by the comfort. Corvain handed her a cup of juice and smiled. "No one's gonna find you here," he said. "This place is invisible." Reed let himself breathe. Just for a moment, he hadn't slept properly in weeks. Corvain gave him a place to rest, tools to fix the dust fox, and food for Ara. It felt like a miracle. For 2 days, they stayed there. Era even began to laugh again. Corvain taught her how to fix wires and adjust engines. Reed watched from a distance, smiling softly, but something felt off. Late at night, Corvain's voice on the comms was too quiet. His eyes stayed on Era too long, and there was a locked room behind the bunker door, always guarded. On the third night, Reed couldn't sleep. He stepped into the hall and heard voices low and fast. He moved closer and listened. Corvain was speaking to someone through a hidden transmitter. "She's here," Corvain whispered. Alive, controlled.com. A voice on the other end replied, cold and sharp, "Hold her." "There. The buyers will arrive within 12 hours. Reed's blood froze. He backed away slowly, breath shaking. He wanted to believe it wasn't true, but deep down, he had known Corvain hadn't changed. Reed rushed to Era's room. She was asleep, curled up with a small blanket and her drawing. He shook her gently. "We have to go," he whispered. "Right now," but before they could move. Alarms blared, doors slammed shut, metal walls locked in place. Corvin's voice echoed through the speaker. "Don't make this harder, Reed," he said. "You and I both know what she's worth." Reed clenched his fists. "She's not for sale," he shouted. He blasted the door controls and pulled Ara into the hallway. The place lit up with red lights and stomping boots. Guards appeared, armored and armed. Reed fired first, hitting the ceiling to make a path. They ran, dodging shots, Era gripping Reed's jacket tight. Her breath was fast, her fear rising. They made it to the main gate, but it was locked. Corvain stood there, blocking the path. Blaster in hand, face calm. "You should have taken the deal," he said. Reed raised his weapon, but Era stepped forward. Her eyes turned silver, light surrounding her body. "You lied," she said quietly. "You laughed with me, and then you lied." Corvain laughed. "You're not a girl," he said. "You're a price tag with legs." In that moment, something inside Era broke. Not in rage, but in clarity. She raised her hand, and every light in the bunker shattered. The ground shook, metal screamed, and Corvin's weapon exploded in his hand. He fell to his knees, screaming. Reed grabbed Era and pulled her toward the exit. This time, the gate opened. She had torn the control systems apart with her mind. They ran back to the dust fox, blasted off just as the bunker exploded behind them. Era sat in silence, staring. Out the window, tears ran down her face, but her hands didn't glow this time. Reed sat beside her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have protected you better." Ara looked at him, voice soft. "You did?" she said. "You believed me?" He wrapped his coat around her. And for a long time, neither of them said a word. Outside, the stars kept moving, but inside, something had changed. Era had faced betrayal and chosen mercy. Now she knew what she never had before. Not just power, but choice, and that made her stronger than anything the galaxy had seen. The dust fox floated quietly in deep space, its engines off, lights dimmed, and shields cold. Reed had shut everything down. They needed time to breathe and space to think. Era sat alone in the back room, knees pulled to her chest. Her silver hair hung over her face, hiding her eyes. The stars outside the window shimmered, but her mind was far away. Back to the bunker, to Corvin's betrayal, to the voice that had called her a price tag. She was tired not just in her body, but in her soul. Tired of being seen as a tool, a weapon, a secret to own. Reed had saved her again. But what if he couldn't keep doing it forever? In the cockpit, Reed worked in silence. He repaired a cracked wire, wiped off blood from the console. His hands moved automatically, but his mind stayed on Ara. He could see the change in her. She was growing stronger, yes, but also quieter. Like a storm building behind her eyes, she was asking questions without speaking them out loud. Later that night, Era finally walked into the cockpit. Her voice was soft, barely more than a breath. "Where did I come from?" she asked. Reed looked at her, then at the stars. He hesitated, then nodded. "I think you're ready to know." He pulled up an old file, one he had found hidden in the wreckage of her ship. It wasn't just a list of names or experiments. It was a blueprint of her. The screen showed her DNA. Her code name, ARA, Advanced Reconnaissance Asset, built to adapt, to destroy, to obey. Era stared at the screen without blinking. "I'm not real," she whispered. "You are?" Reed said firmly. You're just not what they wanted you to be. Her eyes glowed slightly, not with anger, but with understanding. All this time, she said, they wanted to use me. And I didn't even know who I was. You still get to decide that. Reed said, no one owns you anymore, before she could answer. An alert pinged across the dashboard. A small ship had entered their sector's stealth class, silent. Engine fast. It hailed with an encrypted signal. Reed decoded it slowly. It wasn't a threat, it was an offer. A woman's voice came through the speakers. This is Captain Vela of the Free Horizon. We don't want to hurt the girl. We want to help her find her kind. Ara tilted her head. My kind? She asked, confused. Yes, the woman said. There are others like you. Scattered, hiding, lost. We've been protecting them, keeping them safe. Reed looked skeptical. What's the price? He asked. No price, the voice replied. Only a choice. Ara turned to Reed. What if they're telling the truth? Reed didn't answer right away. He hated the idea of letting her go. But he also knew what holding her back would mean. It's your choice, Ara, he said. Always has been. They docked slowly with the Free Horizon. The ship was larger. Sleeker, full of soft light and calm voices. A few young people greeted them, some with glowing eyes, some with silver hair like Ara's. They weren't soldiers, they were survivors. Captain Vela stepped forward. She wasn't a military officer, she looked like a teacher. Calm, wise, and full of pain hidden beneath kindness. She knelt before Ara. You are not broken. She said, you were made for war, but you get to live for peace. Ara stared at her, silent. Then looked back at Reed. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't want to leave you, she whispered. You're not, Reed said, pulling her into a hug. You're just growing wings. They stood like that for a while. Two souls who had found each other in wreckage, two hearts that healed each other without even trying. Then Ara stepped back. I'll go with them, she said. But only for a while. I want to learn who I am, but I'm coming back. Reed nodded. I'll be waiting, as the dust fox drifted away and the Free Horizon faded into the stars. Ara stood at the window of her new ship. She held her old drawing in one hand, Reed and her under a sky of stars. In the other hand, she held a blank page. She was ready to draw something new, not what the world wanted, not what she was designed to be, but who she chose to become, and that choice made her more powerful than anyone ever imagined. Asterisk, the stars had changed since the day Reed first found her. Brighter now, softer somehow. Not because the universe was kinder, but because she had changed the way she saw it. Ara stood on a hill of green grass, under an open sky. A real sky, not painted metal or a view through glass. Birds flew overhead, trees danced in the wind, and a warm sun touched her face. This planet was called Lyra's Edge, a quiet world far from the war zones and forgotten empires. It had no cities, no armies, no secrets, just forests, rivers, and peace. Reed sat nearby, repairing a solar panel with a tired smile. His beard had grown, and his coat was patched in new places. But his eyes, still sharp, still kind, watched Ara like a father watching his child take her first steps. It had been months since she left the Free Horizon. She had learned from the others like her, trained, healed, remembered. And then she came back, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. I brought something, Ara said. Walking toward Reed, she held a small box, wrapped in a soft cloth. Inside was a necklace silver chain with a crystal shaped like a star. I made it, she added. Shyly, Reed took it carefully. It's beautiful, he said, his voice low. Like you, Ara smiled. It was different now, not the shy smile of a scared girl, but the steady smile of someone who knew who she was. That night, they sat by a fire outside their small home. It was built from the dust fox's old parts. A ship that had flown through battles now rested as walls, a roof, and a quiet shelter above them. Stars filled the sky. Ara pointed at one. "Do you think other kids like me are still out there?" Reed nodded. "Somewhere," he said, "and maybe they're waiting for someone like you." Ara's fingers played with the necklace. "I don't feel like a weapon anymore," she said. "I don't feel like a tool. You never were." Reed said, "You just needed time to see it." She looked at him. "You gave me that time." He didn't reply, just smiled. The fire cracked softly. The wind carried the smell of pine and earth. Inside their home, Ara had placed something above her bed. The same drawing she had made long ago, 2 figures under the stars. She had updated it. Now it showed more trees, a house, birds and the sky, and a path that led forward. The next morning, a message came through the old radio. Captain Vala's voice, calm and gentle. "Ara," she said. "We've found another child. She's scared, hiding, doesn't trust anyone. Do you want to come?" Ara stood by the window for a long moment, then turned to Reed. "Should I go?" Reed didn't answer right away. He walked over, placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's not my choice to make anymore," he said. "But if you ask me, I think you already know the answer." Ara looked at her boots, her hands, her heart. She was no longer a weapon, no longer lost. She was someone who had found her home, and now, maybe, she could help others find theirs. She nodded. "I'll go," she said, "but I'll come back. You always do," Reed said before leaving. She placed a new drawing on the wall. This one showed 3 figures: Reed, herself, and a child she hadn't met yet. They were standing on another hill, under different stars, but the same sky, as the small shuttle lifted into the morning light. Ara looked out the window. The house grew smaller. The trees faded into the mist. But in her chest, the warmth stayed. Reed waved from below, not with sadness, but with pride. He had found her in the wreckage. Now she flew toward the stars, not because she was forced, but because she chose to. And that choice was everything in a galaxy full of weapons, war, and fear. Ara had become something rare. Not a weapon, not a tool, but a light, a home, a hope. Asterisk.